Today we're going over 10 absolutely broken devil fruit powers that have terrible users. It makes me sad how bad some of these people are at using their devil fruit powers. Let's get right into it. First up in this video we have Bluno and his Doru Doru no Mi. Bluno is a member of CP9 and his devil fruit is incredibly versatile. It's a paramecia type that grants him the ability to create doors on any surface, including air and even people. This power has immense potential, offering not only utility but also a variety of combat applications such as instant evasion, battlefield manipulation, and even bypassing otherwise impenetrable defenses. Despite all these powers, Bluno is often regarded as an underwhelming devil fruit user, partly due to his lack of creativity and tactical thinking when using his powers. Rather than maximizing its potential to outwit opponents or create devastating ambushes, Bluno relies on straightforward tactics, which are quickly outmatched by stronger and more adaptive fighters like Luffy. It makes me sad because we'll probably never see this devil fruit at its full potential. Bluno did not return to the story in Egghead when Lucci and Kaku did, and from those cover stories of CP9 in the manga, it looks like he's off doing his own thing now. But think about it, the air dimension would be your best friend with this power. Once inside, you'll have no means of interacting with the real world, and assuming the rules of reality don't apply in this world, you could probably pass through walls like they were nothing but holograms. If Bluno was more creative, I think he would have beaten Gear 2 Luffy. Like, think about it, he could put doors on anything, so he could put a door on Luffy's chest and ended up ripping his heart out, but I bet Bluno never even thought about doing that. He could have also opened a door on Luffy's legs and made him unable to walk. Like, there's a lot of things Bluno could have done. He could have opened a door when Luffy punched him in Gear 2 and just sent Luffy's fist into the air dimension, but the point of this fight with Luffy wasn't to show off Bluno's devil fruit, it was to show off Gear 2, so that's why it made Luffy look really OP, which is unfortunate because there are so many things this devil fruit can do. We just don't get to see it, and we probably never will. I don't think Bluno's ever coming back. Next, I'm including Caesar Clown's Gasu Gasu no Mi, a Logia type devil fruit that allows him to transform into, create, and control gas. Despite its potential, Caesar's use of the fruit often reflects his arrogance and lack of strategic foresight rather than genius. For instance, during his battle with Luffy and the Straw Hats on Punk Hazard, he relied heavily on flashy, one-dimensional tactics like suffocating opponents by removing oxygen. And that worked at first, don't get me wrong, but the strategy soon didn't work once the Straw Hats adapted to it. Similarly, he could have exploited his ability to infiltrate or sabotage more effectively, such as sneaking undetected as a gas into enemy strongholds or creating lingering traps with toxic clouds. Caesar tried to use brute force with the Gasu Gasu no Mi when it's clearly meant for more creative tactics. This is one of the most dangerous devil fruits in all of One Piece, and there's never really a moment that shows that. I think part of that is because Caesar was written as the villain in Punk Hazard, and that's right after the time skip, so he couldn't be written as too powerful of a villain when Dressrosa and Wano were coming up with the big power-ups that Luffy gets. But even in Whole Cake Island, when Caesar's around, he doesn't do much of anything, especially regarding his devil fruit power. And yeah, after Punk Hazard, people were in possession of his heart the entire time, so he couldn't do much, but still, Caesar is a pathetic character whose devil fruit is literally overpowered. That's why he's in this video, because he sucks at using it. Now let's talk about BabyFive. Not her marriage to Sai, but her being a stinky user of a good devil fruit power. She wields the Arms fruit, or Buki Buki no Mi, a paramecia type devil fruit that allows her to transform any part of her body into weapons of all kinds, from swords and guns to bazookas and missile launchers. Whatever you can imagine that does damage, she can turn into. By herself, BabyFive has the potential to be a walking arsenal capable of adapting to any combat situation. Basically a one-man army, or I guess a one-girl army. However, Oda is a pretty freaking smart guy. The 10 people in this video, he knows their devil fruits could be way stronger, right? He's the one that created them after all, but most of these people are side characters. Bluno and BabyFive both play a role in the story, but they can't have too big of a role, so Oda makes them incompetent when using their devil fruit. And there's several more examples of this coming up, so stay tuned. The main reason BabyFive is a bad user is her lack of focus and priorities when using it in battle. Her tendency to be distracted by emotional whims and her compulsion to fulfill others' requests prevent her from fully leveraging the fruit's potential. And this doesn't just specifically affect her devil fruit. If she had any power, these would affect them. Her emotional problems are just what Oda gave her, so she wasn't too strong of a user. Moving on to the next user, this character is an example of someone who could have an absolutely overpowered devil fruit, but their imagination and creativity limits their success. I'm talking about Perona. She is the user of the Horo Horo no Mi, a paramecia devil fruit power that allows the user to conjure ghosts. But it's not just ghosts. One of her main attacks that we see her use in Thriller Bark is called Negative Hollows. Perona sends out ghosts that can drain the will of any person it comes into contact with, making them very negative and depressed about themselves. We see this work on several strong characters. Even Luffy was hit by this a couple of times. However, this was before armament hockey was introduced, so I don't know if someone can just punch the ghost with an armament hockey fist and it'll go away. I feel like that would probably work, but I'm not sure. But still, this technique alone is so strong that Oda had to come up with a cheesy way to beat it. That being Usopp having a negative personality and not being affected by the ghosts. I get every devil fruit has a counter, but that being the counter is pretty weak, I'm gonna be honest. Perona just relies on more comedic and childish tactics against her opponents rather than actually trying any complex techniques or strategies. That's why she's included in this video. Her ghost devil fruit has a lot of potential. And another one of her techniques, she can use a ghost form and show a projection of herself to enemies. She can do this while being really far away from the battle, which makes it a pretty dang good ability. I just think there's so much left on the table here, and that this ghost devil fruit can do a lot more than what Perona has shown us so far. Next up, we got the cream fruit. The paramecia devil fruit known as the Kuri Kuri no Mi, eaten by Charlotte Opera of the Big Mom Pirates. As the name implies, he can create and control cream. We see very little of this devil fruit's powers. It is used a little bit against Luffy when he's taking on the entire Big Mom army, but that's it. However, a big detail is revealed about Opera during this fight. His cream is highly corrosive, capable of burning opponents on contact, and it can be used to create massive quantities to overwhelm enemies or even reshape the battlefield. It says at the time that it's something to do with the sugar properties that allows him to burn things, but you can do a lot of stuff with this one ability. However, Opera doesn't. He just does straight up stuff like smothering people in cream, which, while intimidating, lacks finesse and leaves him open to counterattacks quite often. To maximize this fruit's potential, Opera would need some new techniques. One of them I thought of is that he could create a tidal wave of cream with compressed air pockets inside. Using his heat ability, he could release explosive bursts from these air pockets, which would hit a very wide area and be super unpredictable on his enemies. Part of Opera's issue is he's just slow. This cream power reminds me of Katakuri's Mochi or Galdino's Wax, but those two look like way more competent users than Opera does with their devil fruit powers. And that's mainly because Opera is a slow thinker. At least from what we've seen. Opera could easily be very strong. He has the resources to do so. He's a part of Big Mom's crew who was a Yonko. I assume he's not though because he was too lazy and didn't take advantage of his opportunities. This next devil fruit belongs to a fishman, Mr. Vanderdecken, and his Mato Mato no Mi. This paramecia type devil fruit gives him the ability to mark someone as his target so that any weapon he throws will lock onto them until it hits them or is blocked. It doesn't have to be a weapon either. It could literally be anything. If Vanderdecken wanted to throw Luffy at Zoro, he could do it. Instead, this man wasted 10 years of his life just throwing things at Shirahoshi. He might not even be a bad user. I'm just mad at the fact he wasted this much time doing something so dumb. By the way, Vanderdecken is a pedophile. Shirahoshi was 6 years old when he fell in love with her. Had to throw that out there because he can't be within 100 feet of a school zone. Anyways, to better utilize this power, Vanderdecken could have marked multiple targets since the fruit allows him to mark several at once and unleashed a barrage of varied high-speed projectiles. He could have marked key areas like an enemy's ship mast or steering wheel to sabotage their movements without needing to be nearby. This is a theme with a lot of these characters. If they're just a little bit more creative, they can do so much more. The Mark fruit could turn Decken into an unstoppable threat from range. However, he's just not very smart, but this next person is kind of a genius. I'm talking about Condro and the Fude no Mi. This one is completely different from all the other devil fruits because Condro is not a bad user of this power, he just pretends to be. This is a major spoiler if you're not in the Wano arc yet, but for most of his life, Condro was just playing a character, and this character was not a good artist. Just so happens that Condro's brush fruit kind of requires the user to be a good artist, otherwise it's pretty much useless. At first, Condro is shown to have very little artistic talent. He does draw this little bird and whatever this animal is that they used to climb Zoe, but up until the big reveal that Condro was faking his entire life, One Piece fans were calling calling him the worst devil fruit user in the entire series. This man was being slandered in Reddit posts, YouTube videos, Twitter polls, whatever, you name it. Then Oda hits us with the plot twist in Wano, and all of a sudden Condro is a great user of this devil fruit, and he's actually a really good artist and was just lying for 20 whole years. But since he was faking to be bad all this time, he's got to be on the list, even if he was secretly a good user of this power. The Fude no Mi has some broken abilities. Like on Onigashima, we see Condro draw and fully control a lookalike of Odin. He could even speak and share senses through this ink creature. If you're a good enough artist, you can completely dupe people, and that's what he did to the scabbards. This is what ultimately caused Ashura Doji's death. So yeah, this devil fruit's good, and it's included here because he was faking to be a bad user, even though he was actually a good user. This next person I had to include, because he basically does nothing with his devil fruit power, and it's a mythical zone. That might have just gave it away right there, but the person I'm referencing is Orochi. He has the Hibi no Mi model 8-headed dragon. Just listen to the name of that. This devil fruit is strong. However, Orochi's cowardice, lack of combat training, and over-reliance on his political power severely limited the potential of this rare power. Rather than leveraging his transformation to dominate the battlefield, he used it mostly for intimidation, rarely using the power unless he was cornered. This devil fruit granted Orochi an incredible blend of physical strength, regenerative abilities, and even the ability to attack multiple opponents simultaneously. If he had any battle training at all, he would have been much harder to deal with during Wano, but thankfully he was useless. I genuinely can't remember him using this power for anything other than intimidation and using it as a get out of jail free card when he was beheaded multiple times. But this devil fruit has returned to circulation, so maybe someday we get to see it again and the person might actually use it in combat, hopefully. The second to last broken devil fruit with a terrible user in this video is none other than the man himself, Silver Fox Foxy. He probably has a top 5 paramecia devil fruit power, but makes it look like one of the worst. Foxy wields the slow fruit, aka Noro no Mi. This allows him to emit slow motion beams capable of freezing objects and people in place for 30 seconds. That's a much longer period than you think. Any of you watching who played sports growing up know that. A lot can happen in 30 seconds. This power has enormous potential for both combat and strategic utility. Foxy can drastically tilt the odds in his favor by freezing projectiles, dodging attacks, or setting up devastating counterattacks. However, Foxy's lazy overconfidence makes this kind of look like a party trick. Instead of overwhelming his opponents with slow beams, he spends more time laughing at his own bad jokes than actually maximizing his capabilities. For as dumb as Foxy is, I still believe he could defeat much stronger opponents, like Admiral level opponents. He only needs to hit one slow beam to win. Then they're pretty much frozen for 30 seconds, and in that time, he could put some sea stone handcuffs on them. This would especially work on enemies that don't know of his devil fruit power already, so they're not prepared with mirrors or anything. Like one little slow beam, and he could win any fight. But once again, this is one of those powers that Oda purposely gave to Foxy because Foxy is very dumb, and this devil fruit is too overpowered to be given to someone that knows what they're doing. I saved the best devil fruit for last because this power is truly insane. This is the Buku no Mi, aka the book fruit, and it's a paramecia type eaten by Mont Dior of the Big Mom Pirates. This fruit grants the user the ability to control nearby books regardless of their size, allowing them to telekinetically move them around and even use them as footholds to fly. Those powers alone are kind of cool, but those aren't even the best abilities. The reason this devil fruit is so broken is something called the World of Books. By hovering an open book in front of an enemy, Montior can trap them within the visual illusions and make them think they are inside the book's setting, distracting and confusing them long enough for him or his allies to attack. This illusion will only end once the book is closed. This was used on Luffy when he took on Big Mom's army, and we get to see just how confusing this dimension can be. Montior showed Luffy all types of illusions and even burned him inside of the book while it was raining in the real world outside. So the World of Books is a really strong and unique ability, but there's one more thing this devil fruit can do that is also very powerful. Montior can use books as prisons. Using massive nails, he pins down people and traps them inside of oversized picture books. Luffy and Nami were imprisoned in one of these books until they were later saved by Jinbei, and prisoners are only able to communicate to the outside world if the page of their book is open. Otherwise, they're completely stuck. Honestly, I think Montior is a decent user of this power. He technically beat Luffy. He got him imprisoned, and Luffy hasn't gotten his revenge yet, so he's one of the only characters that can say he has beaten beaten Luffy. Well, I guess Luffy kind of helped take down Big Mom, so maybe that counts as revenge. But anyway, Monteor is an okay user of this devil fruit, but this power is very, very good, and he could definitely be better with it. That's the end of this video. If you enjoyed, please drop a like, and I'll see you in the next one.